Smart Energy Talks, brought to you by Smarten.
Welcome to this new episode of the Smart Energy Talk series. Today we'll focus on the digital angle of demand side. Indeed, the activation of consumers' flexibility extensively rely on data flows and seamless communication between distributed energy resources, market players, system operators, and traders. The European Union has recently started to address these issues in an harmonized way to ensure the interoperability of data for demand response. Further work will be necessary to ensure the setup of a truly interoperable data framework across the whole value chain of flexibility service, which means from behind the meter to flexibility service provider, market players, system operators. At the moment, many standards are available and coexist, but they do not necessarily are interoperable, which results in hindering the full potential of flexibility, of consumers' flexibility. To assist this effort, Smarten has identified 4 crucial data exchange flows that are required to activate the consumer and prosumer flexibility and contribute to the efficiency of the energy system. Associated to this 4 data flow, we have identified relevant set of standards to support and foster the interoperability of data and consent-based data sharing. Hello Laurent, thank you for being with us today. So as I said in my introduction, Smarten has identified 4 data flows that are crucial to demand-side flexibility. Can you say which are these data flows and why are they important?
Yes, so there are various changes which we see happening into the energy value chain. The first one is the progressive introduction of Data Act and the fact that a lot of devices in consumer environments are inherently connected to the internet. So that means the first flow is the flow between the device and the operator of the device. Associated to that, basically new services can be designed and offered in relation to these devices, being a smart charger, heat pump, or battery storage as an example. And this means there must be also connectivity between the operator of this device and the flexibility service provider. That's the second element of this data flow. And then the other ones, which are of course and obviously very important, are the connectivity between the flexibility service provider or aggregator and the markets and various type of markets, intraday wholesale markets, derivative markets, but also new flexibility markets, where what we see is the, particularly for mass-produced distributed energy resources, it has become crucial to agree on, I would say, consistent sets of standards to be used for exchanging information between the grid operator and the flexibility service provider.
We said that we also mapped a set of standards for each data flow. Can you maybe explain to us why too many standards is a problem, but also selecting one is not a solution, and why we came across these 4 data flow and the work behind
So we always have this dilemma of basically keeping as much innovation as possible on one side. So that direction, I would say, is towards providing freedom to market participants and data processor to select basically their own way of communicating. The difficulty of that strategy is you very often stay into interoperability between a limited ecosystem, a few players only, or within a country, but you really cannot reuse this at a pan-European level. And if you take today an electrical vehicle charger or an electrical vehicle, generally speaking, these equipments are mass-produced for the entire European market, and they basically associated interfaces are once designed for this product, and we cannot imagine of having basically different interfaces for different flexibility service provider or different DSOs or TSOs. So That means that we need to go into a direction which is better organized, better harmonized in a way, and that does not mean that we need to jump onto a single one, because what we see is the type of service which you can get out of a home appliance, a fridge, or a simple heater, and basically a V2X charger is completely different. And so you need to basically take the, I would say, most used for each of these business domain and try to expand it and expand the ecosystem as largely as possible at the pan-European level. And in the same time, allow the mapping of the data between these various sets of standards, which refer to basically terminology like ontologies, which basically consist of common dictionaries of data between these various standards. So that would be a bit as if we would use different communication language with different devices up to a point where we want to connect all these devices together at European level, in which case we need further harmonization of this language and above all agreeing on definition and dictionaries of this exchange of data so that every actor at a pan-European level is able to understand each other.
Okay, as we said, the European Commission and the European Union is putting some efforts on trying to have this harmonized way of dealing with data interoperability, but there are also European projects working on that. Can you share any information?
It's very interesting to see what's happening into the demonstration space. In general, these demonstrators are important because they project next evolution of the regulation or business model in new context, anticipating, for instance, the future flexibility code development and so on. And what we've seen over the last 2-3 years through the reports brought through a bridge as an example, is that the interoperability of device is, in the majority of the cases, identified as a significant blocking point to move towards enabling flexibility at the lower level of the grid. What we also see in the smart and maps is that it is challenging to bring flexibility into the national regulation. It progressively comes into play. It happens now, I think, for larger industrial sites. But what we see is this flexibility is still locked at a lower level, especially into residential environments. And among the key barrier for this device are definitely the barriers related to interoperability. So I think what we try to do in this Martin paper is absolutely essential so that we can reach a broad industry consensus on what are the right direction to invest in terms of standardization, but also keep some space open for innovation. And we all know that flexibility services in the future are going to evolve towards faster services, grid forming, reactive power. So there is a lot of potential development of these markets. And so we want standards which are solid enough to be future-proof, but which are also existing so that from today we can make this distributed energy resource flexibility integrated at a level playing field into flexibility markets.
Okay, maybe a very last question. So we have identified this as an issue. Do you think we are going at the right pace? What is necessary to really unblock this issue for the moment?
That's a very good question. What is the pace and what could be the next step? And I think the Commission has set up a new project related to data spaces in particular. And that's the way I understand this project is to try to favor that interoperability between clouds of device, which makes connectivity easier than staying within the local premise, whether it's a home or a building and so on. And so that can be really a trigger for moving one step further towards more interoperability, towards the better harmonized data ontologies and so on. And we can hope that the combination of new regulation being Data Act, consent management of data sharing, very, very important. Flexibility codes and the new implementing act for interoperability of flexibility data are going to set up the right environment so that it's going to become operational, if I may say, in the next 2-3 years. It is crucial for our power system to make this operational, because the less we integrate these devices at the edge of the system, the more we will have to have either larger power systems, or I would say dedicated batteries, which are basically going to be potentially more cost to the power system, and so more cost to the society and citizens. So achieving this integration is really a very important step in Europe.
Thank you very much, Laurent.
Thank you, Alexandra, and congratulations to SmartN to have spent such an effort on this very technical but very important topic.
Thank you very much.